A lot of times leaders have been promoted into the role they're in because they've been exceptionally good at doing a particular job. For example, a software developer might be great at coding, great at envisioning a project, and great at getting that project across the finish line. They might even be good at leading a small team of developers. But because they're so good, they are then promoted into a position of leadership within the organization. And then a whole new set of skills is required in order for them to do a good job. Now, if you're in a leadership position and you find yourself there after years of being successful at a particular job, there are probably a number of requirements that you have to address that you've never done before. In this video, we're going to go over the top 10 most common mistakes that leaders make when they're new in their roles. If you're new here, my name is Kathy. This is Motivation Code. Motivation Code is an assessment that helps leaders better understand the people they're leading. Because if you better understand the people you're leading, you can better communicate with them and help them find greater success. You see, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help our teams find success. We're here to help our high performers find fulfillment and happiness in their jobs, so they stick around and so that they are happy in their jobs and more productive. But let's dive into the 10 most common mistakes we see people making when they are in a position of leadership. The most common mistake that we see leaders make is inability to communicate effectively. We see this a lot on software development teams where you have developers who are very good at dealing with the code, not being able to fully communicate with the team members that they're leading. But communication is so important as a leader, not only communicating what needs to be done, but being able to listen and hear what your team members are saying to you. Here's the thing. If you don't understand what motivates the team that you're leading, how are you supposed to communicate with them and elevate them into a place where they find greater fulfillment, happiness, and productivity? Once you understand what motivates an individual, you can help them better actualize the things that make that job fulfilling to them. So number 10 is communication, and that's listening as well as communicating, crafting a message that lands in the right way. So if you have an achiever type of motivational dimension on your team, they're going to have different motivations that are focused on personal achievement, and communicating with them and helping them find fulfillment in a way that addresses their motivation is going to help them be more successful. It's going to help you be more successful as a leader. Number 2, not leading by example. I'm sure you've heard it before. Rules for thee, but not for me. Anyone on a team is going to want to see those values of a team exhibited in leadership. If leaders say this is the way we do things, leaders need to exhibit, this is the way I do things. People who are on a team, no matter what their motivational dimension, look to leadership to set values, to set goals, to set work ethic and professionalism that is expected of the team. If they hear their leader saying, this is what we're focusing on and this is the most important thing to our organization, and a leader is over doing some passion project instead, it sends a mixed message, and it shows that the leadership isn't necessarily in alignment to the values that they're communicating with their team. This can cause a lot of confusion because teams want to feel aligned. They want to feel aligned with what leaders are doing, where the organization is going, so that the work that they do matters. Number 3, this is a tough one, resisting change. A lot of times people think that what got them into a certain position is the thing that's going to get them to the next level. And it's not always that way. If you're new to leadership, you may be experiencing this. You found success by doing a certain job, but all of a sudden now you're in a position of leadership and the expectations are completely different. You can't go back to the old way. In fact, you have to kind of break through that change and the fear of change in a new way. I heard a story recently about Native Americans noticing what buffalo do when there's a storm, when there's something that looks fearful off on the horizon. Well, the buffalo, instead of running away from the storm, they run through it because they know that on the other side of that storm, that's where the lush, freshly watered grass is. That's where the reward is. The reward is on the other side of the thing that you fear most. It's on the other side of addressing change, being adaptable to changing market situations, changing economics, and the changes within your team. Everyone is on their way to someplace else, and that change requires growth. So resisting change is holding your team back from what lush grass lies on the other side of that storm. Number 4, making decisions in isolation. A lot of times leaders fear the conflict that might arise from differing opinions. Let's say you're going through a difficult challenge. You have to make a very hard decision. You have to set direction of where your organization is going to go for their next level, their next step. Maybe it's something very complex, like a rebrand of an entire organization. It is very tempting to just make that decision and say, this is what makes sense to me and this is where we're going to go. But oftentimes, when you make decisions in isolation, you are lacking some of the information that comes from boots on the ground, from the market, from your salespeople, from your developers, from customer service people who know what customers are asking for and how they might see things. Gathering information and involving a team, even if that is going to create conflict, is going to make your decisions better. I was listening to a podcast recently with Simon Sinek, and he said that leaders are successful when they are the ones who speak last. Asking questions of your team, hearing from them what their perspectives are, and then being able to make the right decision based on what everyone says is the task of a leader. And it exhibits those values that your team is looking for in strong leadership. Number 5, neglecting employee development. It's very tempting to extract the most productivity possible out of your team. But you know how it is when you take time away from work and spend time on personal development for yourself. You come back to work reinvigorated with new ideas, new perspectives, and excitement towards achieving new goals. Your team members need that as well. Focusing on their personal development, focusing on their interpersonal communication, focusing on understanding what really motivates your team is going to help you become a better leader because you are investing in the people you're leading. When you invest in the people you're leading and allow them the flexibility to choose when they're going to work and how they're going to work, how they're going to achieve those goals that you've set for them, when you invest in their personal development and the change that they have to go through in order to do new things and to adapt to a changing market, when you invest in those people, you start to see greater fulfillment, greater happiness, and greater innovation in the team that you're leading. Number 6, ignoring conflict. Conflict can be an organization's greatest asset. You see, when there's conflict, when there's differing opinions, when people have different views on how to get a job well done, there are opportunities to work through that in a way that builds trust. When you ignore conflict or avoid conflict because it's uncomfortable, then those disagreements fester and cause additional problems. But if you face that conflict head on and say, let's solve this, let's get through this, let's get to the other side of what this conflict is trying to tell us, when you can do that, you can actually create a higher trust team because team members are more likely to bring difficult problems to you as a leader and say, hey, this is going on, so that you can solve problems quickly. When team members see that you're solving problems quickly and that you're not afraid of conflict and that you actually see conflict as a valuable tool in developing a high-performance team, then your organization is going to be more resilient to any kind of conflict, whether it's in the team or if it's coming from market dynamics. So don't avoid conflict, face it head on, and see it as an opportunity to bring a team closer together. Number 7, failing to recognize achievement. Everyone wants a little recognition. Everyone wants their leaders to tell them that they're doing a great job and that they are on track. If you don't recognize and reward achievement on your team, what's it all for? Why am I even doing this? Is this even going to fulfill the objectives of their team? Is this even going to fulfill the objectives of the organization? It leaves your team disempowered, leaves your high performers looking for other opportunities where they are going to be treated better. Reward your team. And it's really important to understand what is motivating to your team. You wouldn't want to reward an achiever because they've done something that is more of a team player, because that's not motivating to them. Rewarding them for doing something that doesn't feel in alignment with their motivational dimensions just feels off. You're rewarding them then for something that is not in alignment with who they know themselves to be, what makes them feel good. Understand what motivates your team and reward them when they find achievement through being their true selves. Number 8 is micromanaging. No one really wants to be told what to do 100% of the time. They want the freedom and the flexibility to explore. They want to be told, here's what the goal is, and they want to find their own way there. And their own way is going to be different for each individual person on your team. Some people are going to find their way there by organizing things. Other people are going to find their way there by pushing through an obstacle. Each person on your team is motivated differently. Understanding where they're motivated and stepping back and letting them run is going to empower them to reach greater goals. And what they'll do is surprise you. When things are going wrong, this is often the time when managers and leaders decide they want to step in and take more control. When things are going wrong, it's better to take a step back. Make sure that your team is focused on the right goals. Make sure your team is focused on where we are trying to go and what we need to do, but let them run. It's going to make your job easier, it's going to make you look better, and it's going to make your team much more fulfilled. Micromanaging is going to do the exact opposite. Number 9, overlooking the importance of organizational culture. Now, what is organizational culture? It's how your team works together. It's when Monday morning comes around and people are kind of excited to start a new week, rather than having that Sunday night dread the night before of, oh no, here we go again. TGIF is so far away. You want to have an organizational culture that celebrates the people on your team and the job that they're doing. There's plenty of memes about buying pizza when a job is well done. Instead, celebrate your team as a whole and celebrate the individuals on your team. Let them know that you value them and give them an opportunity to self-select into opportunities to play games together online or have a corporate retreat where they can actually sit back and really get to know the people on their team. Corporate culture doesn't have to be something that is top-down dictated. It's something that evolves, that you cultivate, and that you set a goal for. You want, as a leader, to have a good, healthy culture where people feel like they are valued, that the work that they do matters, and that their voice is heard. By communicating to your team that that is the goal of corporate culture, your high performers will make sure it happens. But putting some focus on corporate culture is definitely important. Of course, not planning for succession. You're going to hopefully retire someday, take a step back. What does your team look like then? What's going to happen when you are sitting on a beach drinking a margarita, planning for the eventuality when you are not leading the team, and finding those who are on the team that can maybe be promoted into a position of leadership? Planning for the long-term viability of your team can make the short-term success of your team even more visible. When you're a leader of a team, it's incredibly important that you have some degree of self-awareness, that you have some adaptability to changing conditions, that you have a degree of optimism that no matter what stands in front of your team, that they can overcome any of the challenges that are in your way. It's your job to encourage your team that they can do what you see they can do, that they can reach those goals. Even if they can't see it, it's your job to hold that vision for them. Eventually, they'll stop being their own worst enemies and they'll see it too. How do I know? I've been there. I have been in places where there is great leadership that believes in me more than I believe in myself. And in those situations, I've been able to drop the things that I have held in place, beliefs that I've held that weren't even true. It is an incredible experience when you have a great leader. You have the opportunity to do that for your team. And one of the greatest ways you can do that is by bringing MotivationCode to your team. It's going to give you the information you need to better lead your team. It's going to give your team members the opportunity to better understand themselves. When they can do that and even understand the motivation that their other team members, their peers have, it creates a cohesive team and it creates a job that people love to come to. Learn more about how to bring Motivation Code into your organization by visiting motivationcode.com/organizations. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.